obviously flat out. Look at the pressure in his upper body. Behind him, Tim Johnson in the yellow, the Saturn team. A Navigators rider, an Italian rider. There's Huntermark in the pink from the Telecom team, the teammate of, oh, there's the reason that the Prime Alliance team is chasing so hard. Sitting on the back, another Prime Alliance rider, number 54, that's David Klinger. Now, Klinger is a rider that could win this race. And so what's happening is that DiCanio, excuse me, is burying himself, doing the work for Klinger, to keep Klinger fresh, to try to get Klinger as close as he can to this front group. Klinger, a big favorite for this race, a man who climbs and a man who sprints.
Of course, Prime Alliance is a West Coast team, so we've seen, of course, they do race around nationally, but they are a team that's based on the West Coast.
I think John really nailed it on the head there. I think that they want to save Klinger's legs a bit, let DiCanio do all the work, get Klinger up to that front group, because you know what? Klinger is one of the best sprinters there, and he could take the win.
Interesting news as well. No U.S. Postal Service riders in that chase group with DiCanio and Klinger. So the Postal Service strategy has completely collapsed in this race so far. So if they're going to ever panic, right now is the time to panic.
And they're going to have to pull the entire peloton with them if they want to get, or to have one guy at least got to break away to try to get into that second group.
Unfortunately, if you are, got to disagree a little bit, my friend Tom Schuler, if you are the Postal Service team and you've won 5 straight Tour de France's and you are a hometown team and you don't have anyone in the front breakaway, it's your responsibility to chase down that breakaway, and it's on their shoulders now.
Well, we just found out that Lance Armstrong has dropped out of the race. Lance Armstrong with the U.S. Postal Service team, 5-time defending Tour de France champion. We're talking about, what about 50 miles into the race, has dropped out. This was in lap 8. He was the one who was trying to push the issue for his U.S. Postal team, but as you pointed out, John, it looks like they're in real trouble right now to do anything in this race. Of course, without Lance Armstrong, how are they going to make it happen?
This really puts the pressure even more on U.S. Postal Service, because now they don't have, you know, a major workhorse back in the field with them to help really get somebody up to the front. So the pressure is really on for U.S. Postal Service, and I agree with John that, you know, Saturn has some pressure, but not that much pressure. They have someone up there that's within striking distance. U.S. Postal Service has no one within striking distance.
And that's why Tom Schuler, the team director of the Saturn team, was so happy and figuring that, hey, this thing is doable. We can make it happen, because he had a guy up there with that second group.
We had a brief shot again of the chase group on the Fillmore Street climb, and again, we had continuing in their strategy for this race, the Prime Alliance rider, Matt DiCanio, just killing himself at the front of this race, trying to get Klinger to the front. Klinger has won big races already this year. He's a rider that the team absolutely believes in, and they're playing all their cards on David Klinger. As we look at our chase group, a minute 32 behind, a Navigators rider, Jeff Lauder, a rider who has spent lots of time in Europe, raced professionally in Europe, come back to find a home and a domestic-based team. And there's DiCanio again. Look at the force. Look at what he's doing. Forcing himself time after time after time to get to the front of this field, this chase group, and try to get to that breakaway and catapult and pull his team leader, David Klinger, right up there.
Yeah, they're rolling down Broadway, headed toward the Embarcadero, like you pointed out, about a minute 30, and he's trying to take advantage of that little bit of hill. We're going to take a break as we continue with our coverage of the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more exciting racing. We're back live coverage of our T-Mobile International race presented by BMC Software. This is our chase group. Our leaders, 5 racers, are about a minute and a half in front of this lap. This group, the chase group, is completing their 8th lap, and of course the leaders, they're on their 9th lap. We've got 3 more of these complete tours of the course of 10.5 miles left to go on this 9th lap. And here's the chase group now. They're coming to completion of their 8th lap.
And you can see some of the riders reaching in their pockets, pulling out food. This is over 100 miles. These riders have to stay hydrated. They have to stay well-fed throughout the race. So you'll periodically see them reaching in their pockets for power bars, any sort of bar to, you know, keep them going through this 100-mile or over 100-mile race.
All right, our lead group there going up Broadway. Let's go to Stacy Henley. She's at the Fillmore Street Hill. It's going to test these young men once again. Stacy.
Martin, when you talk
In this race, more than 56 miles into the race, they're on their 9th lap. Yeah, the 9th time they're going to have to pull it on up and make it up there. This race is just a part of the Pro Cycling Tour. In fact, this race itself really provides a dramatic finish to what's been an exciting season for the Pro Racing Tour. Our Mike Schumann, ABC7's Mike Schumann, brings us tour highlights from around the country.
Acevedo on the front, banging out the rhythm at 35 miles an hour.
Where are the sprinters? Who's on form? Who's going to lead us to the line?
The 2003 Pro Cycling Tour has all the makings of a dramatic, spellbinding movie with everyone competing for more than $300,000 in prize money. From the Manayunk Wall in Philadelphia to the jam-packed streets of New York City, the Pro Cycling Tour links America's biggest, best, and most innovative professional road cycling races featuring world-class athletes. The tour kicked off in June with the Wachovia Series. The riders charged through 3 races in 1 week: Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Trenton, New Jersey, and then the U.S. Pro Championships in Philadelphia.
This is going to be a desperate finish, though. There's no sign anymore of Rodriguez, as I think on the line it could be DiBiase who took it on the line. He thinks he did.
This looks like an all-out then. It's going to be the Saturn rider. Rapinski is going to come up there.
The next stop was August 3rd at the New York City Cycling Championship, where pouring rain didn't stop riders from traveling more than 40 miles an hour to cross the finish line. The T-Mobile International, presented by BMC Software, is the final stopover on the 2003 Pro Cycling Tour. What makes this race stand out among the rest is not only its renowned course, but also the sheer presence of Lance Armstrong.
Lance Armstrong has attacked off the front of this breakaway.
This is the only Pro Tour race that Lance competes in, which creates some added pressure for other teams. Riders earn both points and prize money at each event. The rider with the most combined points after Sunday's race will be the overall Pro Cycling Tour champion. Last year's winner in San Francisco, Charles Dion, has moved to Team Saturn. We'll be watching him again to see if he can meet the challenge one more time. Mike Schumann, ABC7 News.
Well, this has turned out to be maybe the premier race, one of the premier races all across the country. And right now, we've got Sandhya Patel with a couple of guys who have brought this wonderful event to San Francisco, and they are to blame for all this good fun we're having. Hey, Sandhya Patel.
Yes, these guys are to blame. I've got with me Dave Chawner. He's the president and CEO of Threshold Sports. He's one of the co-producers of the event. And also joining me is Dan D'Armond with BMC Software. Hi there, guys. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Good. Thank you. Now, tell me, if you will, how has the Pro Tour gone this year?
Actually, it's gone extremely well. The Pro Cycling Tour is made up of events all across the country. Wachovia Series in Philadelphia, the New York City Championship presented by BMC Software, and the T-Mobile International, also presented by BMC, are our major events on the Pro Cycling Tour this year, and each one of them has been a huge success. We're seeing much bigger crowds than ever before. Cycling is really growing in this country, and the Pro Cycling Tour is really on, kind of leading the way.
All right. Now, sir, will you tell me about the fame of this race?
Oh, I think it's great. This is our 5th year to evolve in cycling, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And one of the things that we wanted to do is look for something that we could bring to our customers and our employees, and we wanted a wow factor. And nothing says wow like the streets of San Francisco, up and down Taylor and Fillmore Street.
Those are some tough climbs, I tell you. Fillmore and Taylor Streets. I mean, they've got their work cut out.
They do. They do.
Well, thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. We really appreciate it, and it's a great event. Yes, the streets are crowded, and no doubt about it, there are tons of people here in San Francisco. The weather is cooperating. Toss it back to you, Martin.
Okay, Sandhya, thank you very much, and a lot of big-time thanks for BMC Software and, of course, Threshold Sports. There's our leaders. They're racing along at the marina at this particular point, and the time is dropping. That second group of 7 has started to whack away as we look at the leaders, but they're only 1:18 back, John.
1:18, little bits of inroads into their lead being made by the Chase group. The peloton still more than 4 minutes behind. And I've got to tell you, when the main field passed, I was struck by 2 things. Number one, the Seiko team was finally, the red shirted teams of the Tour of Italy winner Gilberto Simoni were chasing, and I saw absolutely no presence whatsoever anywhere near the front of anybody in a green, in a gray U.S. Postal Service jersey. So if we look at our screen, we have our leaders. A minute 16 behind are the chase, 18 behind are the chase group, and 4 minutes 18 seconds behind them are the field. But Postal Service seems to have dropped their hands so far in this race.
Well, with Lance Armstrong, we know the 5-time Tour de France defending champion had dropped out of the race, and you know, we've talked about it. This could be the last race that Lance Armstrong ever makes on American soil. It's a very strong possibility.
They've said that, you know, he's going for his 6th consecutive Tour de France victory. If he wins it, 6th time, which has never been done in history, then he will possibly go on to the Olympics in Athens, and why not finish his career right here in San Francisco. I would certainly hope that win or lose, that we see Lance Armstrong next year, and if he does decide to put an end to his career next year, he does it here in this town, in this beautiful setting. We don't want to see this performance having been the last one of Lance Armstrong in America. I think that would be sad.
That would be the way to finish, and maybe that's going to bode well for us, because it's only 2 weeks. The Olympics in Athens are only 2 weeks after the Tour de France next year, so that would be quite a grind for him to win the Tour de France a 6th straight time, and then 2 weeks later go right ahead and compete and win a gold medal at the Olympics. Something that Miguel Indurain didn't do. He did win 2 gold medals, but he was not able to win that 6th straight Tour de France.
Picked himself back up, went to Sydney, Australia, to Athens. No, my goodness, to Atlanta.
To Atlanta.
A lot of A's.
Yeah, Atlanta.
To Atlanta, Georgia, and won his won 2 gold medals, as you said, gold medal.
And finally, after this race, you know, Lance will get a little bit of rest, well-needed rest. These seasons are so long. He starts his preparation in October, so he needs to get a little time off the bike, recuperate before he starts his preparation for the next Tour de France next July.
Okay. There's our lead group, the 5, still ahead, about a minute 18 in front of that second group of about 7. And the peloton, the main peloton, is about 4 minutes and 18 seconds behind. We'll be right back with more action. The T-Mobile International, presented by BMC. International, presented by BMC Software. They've got about a minute and 18 in front of a second group of 7 riders. Chris Weary, Cesar Garhalis, a couple of HealthNet riders, Gordon Fraser among them, as that lead pack. Let's have a quick Cannon race summary as we bring you abreast. If you've just joined the action, this, of course, is a 107.9-mile course. Lance Armstrong, 5-time defending Tour de France champion, leader of the U.S. Postal Service team, has dropped out of the race after 50 miles. As we pointed out, Lance came in 102-degree temperature, battling the flu, just was not able to contend, and the U.S. Postal Service team really never a factor in this race. Joining me, of course, is Jessica Greco, bronze medalist, 93 World Championships, and, of course, John Eustace, one-time former, as they say, pro cycling champion. Look at this group. John, you predicted it, that they're going to be able to maintain it. The main peloton really blew it. You called that way into the race, that they were just getting too far behind.
Well, I think the main field, being more than 4 minutes behind now, still has a chance to catch this group. What's going to happen right now is that this is a very long, very hard, very heavy race. These men have been on a breakaway for over 40 miles. That means that 40 miles of racing through the wind. And the wind, by the way, we haven't really spoken about it, is considerable. The wind is very powerful, very strong today. So that's like a hill, the wind. It's like fighting another hill. So they're grinding through the wind. They're going over all of these climbs. There are 10 more climbs left in this race between Fillmore and Taylor. And by the end, it's going to be who has got this deep, deep endurance. And someone like Aldab, with all his Tour de France experience, fits that bill.
Okay, when you talk about endurance and the stamina, what about the weather conditions? We've got Larry Beal standing along at the start-finish line along with our weather person, Sandra Patel. Larry?
Endurance and stamina, we feel great, Martin. We're doing wonderfully, you know. Seriously, Lance Armstrong, I've just been told, is going to be joining us here in a few minutes. He's at the hotel, going to get cleaned up and going to talk to us about this race. talk about up to the moment weather conditions, Sandy.
Right, just the recent conditions are temperatures about 65 degrees, winds here about southwest 3 miles an hour, very light, but places like the Presidio around the Marina Green, definitely windier out that way. And of course, there's still fog around right near the coast, and if you were to compare it to Paris or New York City, it's quite a difference, you know, really. I mean, New York City usually about 80s, and they're talking about 4 inches of rain on average around August. And if you compare it to Paris, Paris is usually about 75 degrees and, you know, rainfall of about 2 inches on average. So we're doing all right here.
Although, you know, this year in Paris during the tour, they had temperatures of up to 100 degrees, and that was part of the dehydration problem that Lance had and many others had, and it just saps your strength completely.
Absolutely. I mean, it's tough enough to bike uphill and bike downhill and to bike for that long. I mean, this is a 108-mile race. You're talking about constant fluid. I mean, you just have to replenish the fluids, and when you're working in that kind of heat, it could be very exhausting. Today's high temperature, though, here in the city is only going to be 76 degrees, and that, of course, is a far cry from yesterday's number of 94 degrees. So.
Yeah, it's a great day. Everybody's having a great time out here, and as soon as we get word that Lance is in and around this area, we'll let you know, and we'll bring that interview to you. Martin, let's go back to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Larry and Sandy. We're looking now at our lead group of racers coming up the Fillmore Street Hill, the last part of that hill, and that looks like your guy, Cesar Grajales, at the top, King of the Mountain, as he fights for those Webcor King of the Mountain points.
Third in the competition last year. He attacked from almost a gun today. 41 points over Chris Weary, who's got 16 points. Luxmo gathering up 11 points total. But Grajales looks to really have this King of the Mountains competition in his sights. He's got to hold on for a few more ascensions of these climbs, but the man from Columbia looks to be achieving his goal. 9
more climbs after this one. Of course, Taylor Street is next as they head down Broadway at this point, get a little a chance to catch their breath.
And Grajales is really making Gord Fraser suffer on these climbs. Gord Fraser hasn't been taking any pulls. He's been sitting at the back. He is really suffering, and every time we get to one of these climbs and Grajales takes off, it's killing Gord Fraser.
And they've killed him now because he's not in our picture. Gord Fraser has been dropped due to the efforts of our Colombian Grajales. All Dog in the pink, blasting through to the front. Meanwhile, behind, these are our chasers, still on the climb, appear to be coming within striking distance of our riders in front. Grinding up that climb is a Prime Alliance rider, looks to be Klinger. Shadowing Klinger is, Klinger being a big favorite, is Huntermark, Kai Huntermark, a very strong German teammate, telecom teammate of Aldog. So, Aldog in good position. Huntermark able to follow because his teammate is in front. Saturn rider Tim Johnson there as well. So far, 19 minutes into the lap. We're 2 hours, 33 seconds, and 33 minutes and 50 seconds into this competition. So a little more than an hour and a half to go as our T-Mobile clock comes up and lets us know exactly where we are.
Yeah, and of course, this is that chase group as they're continuing up the Fillmore Street Hill. They're about 1 minute and 15 seconds behind the lead group of 4 racers right now. We haven't seen Gord Fraser. He could be in between, or has he dropped out completely? We don't know at this point, but Gord Fraser, of course, was dropped once before and was able to regroup and bring himself up with that lead group.
And you could really tell the chase group is working quite hard. They look very strong. They're actually in a great position right now because, like I said earlier, striking distance. They're within striking distance of the front group where the field is in a terrible position at this point, and U.S. Postal Service is not in a great position at this point as well.
And with one less rider in that front group, if it's only 4 of them, they have one less to help and to switch off and take the lead, so they've become a little more vulnerable.
Exactly. So 4 minutes, yes, you don't have Fraser in unless he's sitting on the back, which is, if he does catch, you won't see him pulling through to help cut through the wind. He'll be sitting on the back, getting as much draft as he can as our cameras look back. No Gord Fraser. So far, Fraser is gone. Before the start of this race, I had a chance to speak with Brian Holm, the team director of the telecom team, and he told me that his 2 best men on form would be Aldog and Huntermark. So watch these men. They're seasoned, hard professionals. They're riding a tactically perfect race so far, and the 2 of them will have a lot to say about what happens at the end of this bike race.
As we continue here with the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software, they're rolling along. They've got still 9 more climbs, including Taylor on this particular circuit, as the 4 racers in front switching leads. They've got a group of about 7 riders in behind. about 1:15 seconds as we see behind. There's Weary, Chris Weary, Grajales, Aldog, and Loxmo, who was there in that front 4 group.
Great ride by this Loxmo. Great ride. I mean, he was a great junior rider, terrific junior rider. Disappeared from the sport for a while. He has come back, found himself on the up-and-coming HealthNet team, and doing the ride of his life, confirming why he was the star that he was as a young rider.
Well, they're rolling up Columbus Avenue now. As you can see, the road is splitting now. They're making that turn as they look at the imposing and the impressive Taylor Street Hill, as they will once again make the climb as the Webport King of the Mountain issue could come in the point that it looks like Grajales may have sewed up the points lead as far as the King of the Mountain and the Webport points lead.
And John, you were talking about Loxmo, and it is amazing. Last year we had a dark horse win this race with just a stacked field. Who knows, we might have another dark horse win this race. You never know. This might be the race for the breakout of the young, fresh faces.
Fantastic shot of our riders. You saw on Fillmore Street the extension of the road and the way the crowd uses it as a sort of a stadium to stare down at the bike ride. There's nothing like this in any other bicycle race in the world.
This is a great shot.
Oh, it's fantastic.
And you can sense the effort, the energy, and the demanding stamina that they got to have to pull up this hill. I mean, it just doesn't end.
Look at that crowd. Look at that crowd. Amazing. Astounding.
Right at the top, and that, of course, is Union Street, one of the great streets of stores and shops. And now, whoa, what a relief. Let's take a break and roll down Union Street here.
That's a much, much bigger crowd than last year. Last year, there were, you know, a few deep on that hill. People thought it was a great idea. And look at it. It's like, forget. They've been selling tickets out there before you know.
Well, I think they're becoming a lot more sophisticated. That is a great point to watch the race. You got the top of the hill, and you got them flying down with a lot of speed, headed down Union. Of course, now they're going up Columbus.
It's like a natural grandstand. I never really thought about it. The road is so steep, it's created a natural grandstand to watch the riders climb these hills.
Tactically, let's take a look at this chase group. A minute 30 behind our leaders. That is Matt DiCanio just killing himself. Now, that's teamwork. He is killing himself to try to bring his teammate, his Prime Alliance teammate, David Klinger, to the front of the field. Look at the expression on his face. Look at the anguish going through his body as he just roars.
Doing the work.
Through the streets with Klinger in his slipstream. Meanwhile, the man you don't see at the front a lot, Kai Huntermark, Telecom team. He's got Aldog, minute 30 up the road. He just has to sit and follow. Tim Johnson, on the other hand, the only representative of the Saturn team, has to work. But behind Huntermark, in the pink, in the blue, Jeff Lauder from Navigators. He's having an easy ride as well because his teammate is up in the front query. The Italian, we're looking for the Italian, Gabelli, I believe is his name. Should be Garbelli, excuse me, Davide Garbelli, a young rider from the Domina Vacanzi team. Yeah, it would be a good time for him to show himself at the front. No one from his team represented in the front, and it's a good moment for him to get up there with DiCanio and shut down this breakaway.
Well, they make that turn now at Union Street, and we've got Kurt with Prime Alliance, Kurt Willett with Prime Alliance on the phone, and his team is making a move. So, Kurt, you got to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, we're feeling pretty good right now. We'd like to have Klinger up ahead of the melee back in the field, just, you know, taking the easy line, not having to fight for position, and DiCanio just taking care of him up there. We're less concerned about the riders up ahead than we are the guys coming up from behind. So we're feeling like pretty good position right now. Let's have to see how it pans out.
Kirk, how do you feel about what's coming up from behind? Who in that field is going to be exploding out of it to try to shut down this breakaway? What teams are you afraid of?
Well, it's really hard to tell. I mean, the Postal Service hasn't made a play all day, so I expect them to make a play at some point. The question mark for me is what the Saturn team's going to do, as just Tim Johnson's riding really well through this break, and whether they're going to try to strengthen their numbers up here or not. That's going to be something we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, great ride on the part of your ride. DiCanio, what a teammate he's showing himself to be out there today.
Yeah, Matt's slaving for his buddy David, no doubt.
All right, Kirk Willett, Prime Alliance team director, we thank you very much, and you're sitting well in good position to make this happen in this race.
Thank you.
All right, good job, and thank you, man.
It's important to note that Willett has even said, where is U.S. Postal Service? They're waiting for this big move, this big moment, and it's getting later and later in this race.
They're going to have to go fast. Now, what could go in the U.S. Postal Service's favor, and what they are probably counting on, is the fact that it's very heavy out here. It's strong wind. There are all of these climbs. These riders have been out in front for hours, forcing themselves through the winds, working, riding their guts out. And what they're probably thinking, the riders back in the field, the big teams back in the field, is that these riders in front, Query, Grajales, Aldog, and the chase group a minute 30 behind them are going to start to fatigue. They'll start to collapse towards the end of the race. And when they sense that weakness, boom, they'll go exploding out of the field and gobble them up. But that would have to be, and
they are coming back somewhat.
3 minutes 23.
That's another minute that they have lopped off. The main peloton is 3:23 back. Another minute as they look to cut down the lead, catch up at least with that second group, and then they can all work together in unison and then reel in and walk down that group of 4 races in front. So this is lap 10. We've got 2 more, the main laps, that would be going up the Fillmore Street Hill 2 more times. And then, of course, we have 4 smaller medium course races, a total of 20 miles. So we have 6 more times going up Taylor Street Hill.
So as we enter lap 10 with the peloton, 3 minutes 23 seconds behind our leaders, Kurt Willett's statement that he's more afraid of the chasing field than the riders in front seems to be coming very true. The field has woken up. The field is eating into the lead, and we are heading towards what could very well be a most fantastic and exciting finish.
We're talking about a real cattle stampede at the end, the way it's looking. If that main peloton catches up, I mean, it'll be anybody's race at that point.
We'll have to see what happens with 8 more climbs, I believe. We have to go 7 or 8 more climbs of these hills to go. It's a lot of distance to go. And there's an attack. There's an attack by number 26. That is our big man. That is Rolf Aldag, the big German, the Tour de France veteran, showing the power and strength that has carried him to so many victories over the past. Now, Aldag sensing danger. That's the reason he's attacking. He's used up his teammates, and now he wants to set himself up as a point for the riders chasing behind.
And in a way, it's a great tactical move, because if the field or the chasers were to catch the breakaway, when they catch that group, they might not realize that Aldag is even further up the road. And I've seen races where the communication has been poor, actually the Olympic Games, actually. And what happened is the chase group caught the breakaway, not knowing that someone had taken off from the breakaway.
And they thought that was the front of the pack.
They thought they were at the front, and they were nowhere near the front.
And the day was none other than Lance Armstrong, the United States team.
Wow.
And the person gone was none other than Jan Ulrich. So it was a big mistake. And so they know how it works. And Aldag, as we said all day, is an extremely experienced professional. He's a pro's pro. And he is a guy with the strength and power to go by himself for a long time, even through the strong winds like today. Now, focusing on our chase group there. Aldag, look who it is. It's our junior rider, Luxmo, is the only one who's gone with Aldag. Back to the chase group, a minute 30 behind Tim Johnson. And David Klinger trying to shut that down. Boy, this race is heating up.
It is shaping up to be quite a finish. It's still anybody's race. Lance Armstrong has dropped out at the 50-mile mark, but boy, we've got exciting, dramatic action as we head toward the finish of the T-Mobile International, presented by BMC Software. Stay with us. We'll be back with more action straight ahead. Presented by BMC Software. This is our chase group of about 7 riders. We have a group that's broken away of 2 riders. The leaders right now, it is Rolf Aldag and Luxmo of the HealthNet group, and Telecom, of course, is represented by Aldag. These 2 guys have kind of grabbed the race by the neck and say, hey, we're going to make this thing happen. They've shaken it up a little bit.
I got to tell you, this Luxmo, this is a Cinderella story. It's someone who disappeared from the sport, was a great junior rider, come back onto the HealthNet team, and here he finds himself with sort of a current legend in a breakaway, as Aldag is in a breakaway in the streets of San Francisco with someone like Lance Armstrong out of the race. What must be going through this young man's head? Now, you can't work with Aldag. Look at that. Aldag shaking his elbow, come through to the front, young man. Enough is enough.
I'm not going to do it all. You got to come and do some work.
But as a young man,
he's
can't
refusing to do it.
He can't. What can he do? I mean, it's lucky he's there. But meanwhile, behind, coming up like a freight train, is the Prime Alliance team, David Klinger. You haven't used up a bit his teammate DiCanio, head down, trying to get to the front. They are trying to stay away from the chasing field almost more, according to their team leader, Kurt Willett, than catch the riders in front.
Okay, as we look at the chase team trying to catch those two riders that are breaking away, let's go to the start-finish line where our own Larry Beal is there. Larry.
You know, Martin, one of the byproducts of getting hundreds of thousands of people together on the streets of San Francisco to watch this great race is you get thousands and thousands of plastic water bottles that people use and then discard. The question is, all right, what happens to all this stuff? And we have Alexa Kelty here from San Francisco Environment, and she's brought props. We love guests who bring props. So tell us, what happens to all these bottles?
Well, we're recycling all the bottles and cans today, and we are composting all the food scraps and paper waste today. We're about 90% recycling and composting rate at this event today. We're sponsoring this event for the San Francisco's Department of the Environment, and today I brought some compostable forks and compostable cups. These are made out of agricultural waste. They're from corn and other wheat products. They can be composted. They're taken to our facility called Jepson Prairie in Vacaville, where they're composted in a 180-day process. And the compost is sold to Napa Valley, to vineyards and nurseries in the area. So
when you get all these people together in terms of a one-day event in the city of San Francisco, there's probably more compostable material gathered in one day than in any other event, I would think.
Oh yeah, there's huge amount of tons that are produced out of these events, and it's a great educational tool to demonstrate the Fantastic 3 program, which is the residential recycling program here in the city that we've rolled out. And it's a great way to get the word out to reduce and reuse and recycle.
Alexa, you're a walking party just waiting to happen here. All you need is something to put in these cups.
No, it's you got to put some drinks in these cups and have some composting and recycling happen.
All right, Alexa, thanks. By the way, Alexa, her last name is Kelty. Her cousin is Bobby Kelty, Major League Baseball player, played for the Twins. He killed the A's in a bunch of games this year. They traded him to Toronto, so the A's don't have to worry about him for a while. Back to you, Martin.
Okay, Larry, thanks a lot. Only in San Francisco, we've got disposable, and we've got it all taken care of. And this is some major stuff happening. Here's the two leaders in the race, but what about that pursuit group? Were they making a move?
Well, they certainly are. They're trying to chase them down. We're waiting for our time gaps to come on what the distance is between our two leaders, Rolf Aldag and young Loxmo of the HealthNet team. And also, very interestingly, will be the distance between this group and the field, and to see how much progress the field is making in terms of eating into this lead. Loxmo taking his turn at the front.
Not long of a turn, because Aldag is saying, hey man, you're not doing this happening, let's go, I got to pick it up. And they're rolling down Chestnut Street as we see some of the fans and tourists and having a lot of fun watching them roll.
Loxmo taking his turn, but not nearly as long at the front as Aldag. He's either doesn't want to work hard, or he simply just can't work hard, which it's more likely the story.
If I was his team director, you would not tell him to go pull for pull with Aldag, because he'll be used up and he'll be dropped. It's enough that a young rider like that is in front in a race like this in a two-man breakaway with a powerhouse monster bike rider like Aldag. So what he's doing already is a miracle, and it's enough.
So he just survives and try to hang on and maybe benefit as Aldag does the work. But he's there in his slipstream, and so that's a help for him, but nothing for Aldag.
If he can help just a little bit, go through once in a while, give 10 seconds here, 20 seconds here. Aldag knows. He's never heard of this kid. You can look at him and know that he's not a Tour de France rider. So he's happy with the help that this young man's giving, and he probably thinks that he's going to dump this kid a little later on in the race anyway. So everything's fine. Aldag is happy. He's certainly not going to slow down his riding because of a fear of what this young man can do to him.
Well, they're going to roll down Baker Street as they head toward the bay, and then they're going to make that left turn on Mason Street, and we see the Palace of Fine Arts, one of the classic San Francisco architectural structures, and that is a beautiful shot right there. Want to make me get married? Well, a little place to take pictures on it.
And it's great to note that the field is only 340 back. So we went from 6 minutes to 5 minutes to 4 minutes. Now we're within 3 minutes. I really feel like the field now is within striking distance. They definitely have made a better situation for themselves. And it's just extraordinary to see how much time they have brought back in such a little amount of time. So they're doing a great job. I think they're getting a little bit more aggressive and taking control of this race.
Well, All Dog is making sure he's keeping that pace going. I think he's aware of being a veteran and experienced. He knows that, hey, that if they can catch up with, we got a big problem.
He's a great rider, a strong rider. He knows that he's in front. The only thing to do now is to get as much distance as he can between himself and the chasing field. What will be very interesting to see will be if Grajales, after having been dropped, can hold on to his King of the Mountains lead.
Okay, talk about King of the Mountain, the most powerful, the most popular, the best racer, in fact, in the world. 5-time Tour de France champion is on the finish line with our Larry Beal. Larry.
Ride every day. I mean, when I go home this week, even though the season's done, I'll still ride every day for fun. So,
what are you going to do in terms of your training for next year's tour to make it maybe a little bit more bearable? Because obviously you were pretty ground down, but perhaps more mentally, emotionally. I mean, not like it was easy physically, but you know, what are you going to do differently in your training?
Well, I don't know. I think the training was okay. It just, we had to sort of, a few things that lined themselves up, like crashes and illnesses and little episodes of bad luck that made it very difficult. And so we have to avoid crashes, which are part of racing, avoid illnesses, which are easier to try and avoid, and then just try to hope that you've got the bad luck out of the way and that it's time for some good luck. I mean, we had 4 years of really good luck. Never crashes, never flat tires at inopportune times, and we just need to get that sort of that mojo back, and we'll see.
In your heart and mind, do you have it in you to win what would be an unprecedented 6th consecutive Tour de France?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was good to suffer through one this year because, as I said in Paris, I mean, this year was not acceptable for me or for the team, and we all lived with way too much stress those 3 weeks, and I don't want to go out with that. I think it sets it up perfect for a run at number 6 because, as everyone knows, I do better when I'm a little angry, and I just wasn't happy with my performance this year.
So perhaps a motivational factor going for number 6.
Well, I try to make it one.
Yeah.
I try to.
That's what all the greats do. That's what Jordan did for so many years.
Yeah. And everybody, all the ones that have won 5 have gone for number 6. And so I hope that there's not some god out there that just prevents people from winning 6 tours. But there's nothing that says that 2004 is my last year. I mean, there's still a chance that I race again in 05, and I feel good. Physically, I feel the same, or almost the same, right? And I'll give it a go.
Tough day for the U.S. Postal Service team. The race is not over yet, but it seems like there really isn't a horse in the race that can close the gap here.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, the team gets put under a lot of stress from the very beginning, and then to have the team, or at least quite a few of the guys from the tour here, it's tough to put them in a situation like this and put them under pressure. I mean, the tour takes a lot out of guys, and we have a few guys here in the race that are just coming back from injuries. So not to make excuses, but I think the team's a little worn out. You can even see the guys we have in Spain at the Tour of Spain now are just missing something. And it's one thing to have a team that focuses on the tour, and when you win, it's a success. But after that, everybody's wasted.
For the novice or the casual viewer, could you describe what it's like? I mean, 100 miles up these hills is unbelievable, and you talk about doing that. It's almost the equivalent in the tour of doing like a marathon a day for 30 consecutive days.
Yeah, but this is a very different type of race. I mean, these type of hills or climbs we don't have in Europe. I mean, the climbs are much more gradual but much longer. So this is a very extreme event, and I mean extreme in the sense that that climb is so steep, and also the conditions in the city. The roads they're downtown roads. They're not the smoothest, nicest roads you ever come across. So you're always having to think and not hit a cone or not hit a huge pothole the size of Lake Tahoe. And I mean, it's a stressful race, but it's different. It's fun to come back and do stuff like this. You just got to keep your head up.
It's a little unusual in that you have a chance, like we probably got a little less than an hour for the finish here. You could be a spectator here.
Yeah. No, I'm going to go back to the room and watch that. I mean, I love watching bike races, so I'm going to go back and watch the finish and see what happens. Should be exciting.
John Eustace is doing the commentary. You can jump in right down there. I mean, we'll clear a space for you if you want to just, sit in for a while.
I don't have any experience, so.
Oh, right. right, yeah. You know, we take on novices and that sort of thing, but seriously, thanks for coming by, and we're hoping that you do come back. Just a message, because I hear people yelling, Lance, we love you, for the people of San Francisco, because this event has just blossomed since it started.
No, that's why I wanted to come down, because I didn't want to show up and drop out of the race and not come give some sort of explanation. So this is an important event for me and for the sport in America. And how many races do you have where you have 500,000 people in live coverage all day? I mean, it's a beautiful race, and the city supports it, the people support it. So I want to come out and apologize for not being my best and say I'll be back.
Well, that's the best news of all. We can't wait for you to come back next year. Lance Armstrong, he's the man, he's the myth, he is the legend. And kind of a short day for Lance, but there's a whole bunch of people here that just want to meet and greet the 5-time Tour de France champion, and he will watch a little bit of pressure on you guys. Martin, John, Jess, the king will be watching, so let's hope we have a fantastic finish for everybody here.
Yeah, and it's setting up to be just that. Thanks a lot, Larry Beal, along with Lance Armstrong, and Lance explaining why he dropped out. Just took too much of a toll. Training well and set up. But here we are with our leaders in the race, Rolf Aldag and Luxmo. I mean, they have really kept it going. But look, a minute 44. That other group, which is building behind them and surging behind them, still very much in contact. It's setting up to be quite a finish.
Yeah, I mean, Aldag, we've been talking about him all day. He's a pro's pro, and he is by himself, with a little help from Luxmo, basically holding the same gap on that chase group as 6 guys were before. And just to back tag, anytime Lance Armstrong wants to comment on TV, I'll bet you he's really good. I'll bet you he's really good. So anything that man does, he does well. So you don't have to worry about that.
We've got a chase group now of 6 riders at only 2 minutes and 28 seconds, 28 seconds behind.
Okay, so what's happening now? We have 2 men in front. Aldag and Luxmo are in front. A minute 44, that group with Hueri is not able to close in on our big charging German. And then our field, more than 3 minutes behind. There seems to be 2 minutes 28. There seems to be, as the field grinds, grinds up Fillmore. What we're seeing is this race is blowing into pieces. 6 riders apparently have gone off the front of this race. So we have 4 groups. Aldag and Luxmo, a minute 44 back. The group of Grajales and Hueri, and then 2:28 back. A chase group of 6. But back to our heroes in front. What a ride Rolf Aldag is putting in through these streets of San Francisco with the wind and the hills.
That's right, John. We can feel the wind here, and wind is such a huge factor in cycling. You could be on a flat road, and if there's tons of wind, it feels like you're going up a huge mountain. So Aldag is really out here by himself practically. He's doing most of the work, and he's competing against guys in the back that are working with 6, 7, 8 people. Yeah. So they really have an advantage. The fact that he's stayed out there this long with Luxmo coming in, helping a bit, is just amazing.
Yeah, he's pumping his way up Taylor Hill, doing all the work. Now he's making that left turn and get a little bit of respite going down Union Street. But boy, Luxmo, this is not having to do half the work that Aldag is doing, as you really pointed out.
And Aldag is a really fantastic rider. At the Tour de France, you see him doing a variety of things. The Telecom team has this marvelous sprinter named Eric Zabel, who has many years won, 6 years I believe, has won the green jersey, the sprinters competition. And Aldag is the main rider to lead him out for those sprints. And he also lends a big hand to Vinokurov in the mountains. The man can do everything, and that's why a powerful man like that is out in front in a race like today.
He's the man, right?
Buddy here.
Yeah. And it's setting up to be just that. Thanks a lot, Larry Beal, along with Lance Armstrong, and Lance explaining why he dropped out. Just took too much of a toll. Training well and set up. But here we are with our leaders in the race, Rolf Aldag and Luxmo. I mean, they have really kept it going. But look, a minute 44. That other group, which is building behind them and surging behind them, still very much in contact. It's setting up to be quite a finish.
Yeah, I mean, Aldag, we've been talking about him all day. He's a pro's pro, and he is by himself, with a little help from Luxmo, basically holding the same gap on that chase group as 6 guys were before. And just to back tag, Anytime Lance Armstrong wants to comment on TV, I'll bet you he's really good. I'll bet you he's really good. So anything that man does, he does well. So I don't have to worry about that.
We've got a chase group now of 6 riders at only 2 minutes and 28 seconds, 28 seconds behind.
Okay, so what's happening now? We have 2 men in front. Aldog and Loxmo are in front. A minute 44, that group with Hueri is not able to close in on our big charging German. And then our field, more than 3 minutes behind. There seems to be 2 minutes 28. There seems to be, as the field grinds, grinds up Fillmore. What we're seeing is this race is blowing into pieces. 6 riders apparently have gone off the front of this race. So we have 4 groups. Aldog and Loxmo, a minute 44 back. The group of Grajales and Hueri, and then 2:28 back. A chase group of 6. But back to our heroes in front. What a ride Rolf Aldog is putting in through these streets of San Francisco with the wind and the hills.
That's right, John. We can feel the wind here, and wind is such a huge factor in cycling. You could be on a flat road, and if there's tons of wind, it feels like you're going up a huge mountain. So Aldog is really out here by himself practically. He's doing most of the work, and he's competing against guys in the back that are working with 6, 7, 8 people. Yeah. So they really have an advantage. The fact that he's stayed out there this long with Loxmo coming in, helping a bit, is just amazing.
Yeah, he's pumping his way up Taylor Hill, doing all the work. Now he's making that left turn and get a little bit of respite going down Union Street. But boy, Loxmo, this is not having to do half the work that Aldog is doing, as you really pointed out.
And Aldog is a really fantastic rider. At the Tour de France, you see him doing a variety of things. The Telecom team has this marvelous sprinter named Eric Zabel, who has many years, 6 years, I believe, has won the green jersey, the sprinters competition. And Aldog is the main rider to lead him out for those sprints. And he also lends a big hand to Vinokurov in the mountains. The man can do everything, and that's why a powerful man like that is out in front in a race like today.
He's the man right now, Rolf Aldog. T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. This is your 2 leaders, Rolf Aldog and Loxmo, as they are going to completing their 10th lap. And that would be about the 77-mile mark of this race. They've got about a minute and 44 lead over 2 other racers, chasers in Chris Weary and Cesar Grajales. Is your boy Cesar from Grajales? Cesar Grajales from Colombia. And this race is really shaping up. We've got 5 chasers behind them, and the pack is about, 3 minutes and 40 seconds behind. And it's really something. They now going into their 11th lap. As soon as they cross the start line here in just a few seconds, they're crossing it now. And they would then have to go up the Fillmore Street climb only 1 more time, and then they would have 5 more times to go up the Taylor Street climb.
As we take a look at the situation on the road, our 2 leaders, Rolf Aldog, the great seasoned professional, doing one of the great rides of his career, almost alone out front, a young rider, Loxmo from the Health Net team. His name is Jason Loxmo, a Cinderella ride on that young man's part, able to go blow for blow, or at least blow for an occasional blow, with Aldog staying out in front.
Occasionally in a very short blow, right?
Yeah, but it's enough to be out there. Meanwhile, a minute 44 behind them are 2 of the riders, Grajales and Hueri, who were part of the original breakaway with Aldog, have been dropped, holding on. Grajales desperately trying to hold on to that King of the Mountain classification. Looks like he might win that thing. How lovely would that be? But then the rest of the riders who were in that original breakaway are 2 minutes 28 seconds behind our leaders, Aldog, losing time on Aldog. That means that Aldog used them up and is pulling away from them. And meanwhile, 3 minutes 40 seconds down on Aldog is the peloton.
Is the whole pack, yeah.
Still out of contention so far, unless
we're talking about
explode into the end.
The remaining members of the U.S. Postal Service team would be in that pack. Of course, Lance Armstrong. We just talked with him at our finish line. He's sticking around. He's going to watch the finish of the race. But his team members have not been able to really pull up anything. These are your leaders now. This is their 11th lap around, and this will be their final time going up the Fillmore Street Hill, and only 5 more times will they have to go up the Taylor Street Hill. But this is their final big lap, where they will go all the way down by the Marina Boulevard, all the way down to Fort Mason, and after this, they will do the 4 inside laps of 20 miles.
I don't know how you feel, John, but if we go into the final 4 laps on the 5-mile loop and the field is still 340 back, I don't think the field's going to make it up there. I think the race might be over and the race might be ahead of them.
So they have to make up, you think, in your opinion, they're going to have to make it up within this final lap.
I think a minute or so, they're going to have to bring them in this final lap, else it's going to be very tough in the last 20 miles.
Well, a big challenge ahead for the main peloton, which is about 3 minutes and 40 seconds behind our leaders out front. This is the Chase group here, 2 minutes back. And not bad. They're all together now. So they're going to be able to work together, to come together as a unit, to help each other out, to pull them in.
But the big problem here is that you've got Grajales is back in this group, and he's fine. His day is happy because he's got that King of the Mountain points classification getting wrapped up. He's happy with that. The big problem for this Chase group is the man in pink, second from the bottom there, is Kai Huntermark. He's a teammate of Aldag, who's at this moment 2 minutes up the road. Huntermark knows that Aldag can win this race, so he's going to do nothing to help this Chase group close in on Aldag, even foul them up a little bit in subtle ways, slow them down in subtle ways. So Telecom racing this race to perfection.
And really, he's no help to that chasing group at all. So you could just count him out at this point. He's just sitting on, so they're not as strong as they look right now.
Yeah, it's really a 4-man group. It looks like a 5-man group. There's only 4 people that are doing the work. And of course, as you pointed out, Chris Weary along there, and Grajales, a guy, young Colombian, who's certainly satisfied because he's got that King of the Mountain, the West Coast King of the Mountain, sewed up. But he's also got an opportunity of some kind of way that Chase group can keep reeling him in. The 2 men out front, Aldag and Luxemore. So and here's the time differential now. It's 2 minutes, and then the Chase group, and 3:20 back to the main peloton. As you pointed out, Jessica, it doesn't look like it's going to happen for anybody in that group.
I don't know. It's such a hard call. It's such a hard call because a lot of times when the field is ready to make it happen, I mean, there's a lot of riders that have been back there, haven't been working nearly as hard as Aldag and these other people in the second Chase group. So really what happens is that when the field wants to make something happen, it's really amazing what they can make happen in a short period of time. So it's really a tough call at this point.
What we'll have to take a look at in this situation is who is left back in the field able to chase down these people, as we see our 2 leaders here. Who is powerful enough to do it? What team can do it? The U.S. Postal Service team doesn't seem to have it. They seem to be tired. They seem to have given up the ghost. The Domino Vacancy team, they're split up all over the place. Seiko, we haven't seen them all day. Is there anybody that can really, really do it? Is there a team that can really take control of this race? They're going to have to really do it and do it quickly if it's going to happen, because as we look at these pictures, Aldag and this Luxmo are racing beautifully, racing strong, not losing power at all, it seems. Seem to show every sign of being able to take this to the finish.
Well, you pointed it out. I mean, Aldag is an animal. As they go around now, they're coming up by the cable car turn style up around at Fisherman's Wharf, rolling along, and he's the guy who's out front and making it happen, doing the work. I mean, it is amazing. This guy is a powerhouse.
Really, I can't express how impressive his ride has been so far. And even as we sit here again, I think the wind is picking up as the afternoon goes on, and it's just making it tougher and tougher. But he's not giving up any time to the chasers. He's not giving up any time at all.
In fact, he's pulling time away from them. You know, that's the kind of power you have when you ride as many Tour de France's on such big teams as Telecom, as he has done. And that's what we're seeing today in the streets of San Francisco. Here is the Navigators team. They played the card of Chris Weary early on in the race. He was going for the King of the Mountain points. Lost that so far to Grajales. So that team must be panicking as they see their great race disappear up the road. The big domestic team who've done so well here is the HealthNet team. Small team, small budget, but boy, they found this kid Luxmo. Put him in the right place, and he's using every bit of strength and power in his soul to stay up there with the big German. Back to our chasing group here, 2 minutes 28 seconds back at the last time check on our leaders. Tim Johnson Jeff Lauder from the Navigators team, Grajales. Grajales must be laughing all over inside for all the pain he must be in, because it looked as though he might very well put away this King of the Mountains competition. Again, the Prime Alliance team had really thought that they were going to be able to get David Klinger to the front, but they didn't count on Rolf Aldag and the power that he showed in attacking off the front of that chase group.
We just got word that last year's winner, the defending champion Charles Dion, has dropped out of the race. He was dropped and just couldn't make it this time. As you pointed out, he's had a lot of bad luck racing this year. A couple of crashes and having to drop out now. He's trying to defend his championship. It just wasn't going to be. And here are our leaders as they race along now down by the Presidio, close to the marina. It's Aldag pulling along the young man from HealthNet, Loxmo.
When you see a rider like Aldag in an early breakaway like that, if you're an experienced rider, you're afraid. Because you know that as the race goes longer, a rider like that's going to get stronger. And if you start going pull for pull with him, as Query did, and Grajales did, and not Sayers, but Gord Fraser did, you have to know somewhere that when you're tired, he's not going to be tired. So with some experience, they should have expected this. They should have expected that someone like Aldag is just so powerful that he would pull a move like this. And you got to say again to this kid Loxmo, he's the one that saw the move. He's the one that saw what could happen. And it's really admire the ride this young man is doing. Right now, the chase group, latest time checks, 2:18 behind.
So they've picked up 18 seconds as far as the leaders. I mean, they've kind of widened the gap, or else the chase group has slowed down at least about 18 seconds. They were within 2 minutes.
And I don't know how you feel about this, John, but it's just really amazing that these riders are still out here. And I don't know, when they initiate this breakaway, Weary and these other riders, if they really thought at this point in the race they'd still be out there. I mean, it's just amazing that this break has really been out here so long. It's changed. It's definitely changed the dynamics, the riders, the amount of people in each group. But I don't think that so early on a breakaway like this would have stayed away.
Certainly based on what last year's performances were, early breakaways were gobbled up as soon as the Postal Service team, which was clearly a much better form last year, decided to change the shape of the race. They put the hammer down, as we say in racing, and they did it. No team this year has been able to dominate the race in the way the Postal Service did last year. There's been bits and pieces of teams going out, getting caught, going out again, getting caught. Tactically, though, one thing to watch as we look at Aldag and his shadow, Loxmo, is in the chase group 2:18 behind. Should that chase group catch these two men in front, Aldag's got another seasoned veteran professional in that group named Kai Huntermark. And Huntermark will be fresh and ready to win that race if indeed Aldag gets caught. So Telecom riding the perfect tactical race on the day.
Telecom is in great position. Aldag is in great position. So team-wise, they're in great position. Even if that group catches up, they're looking good. We're going to go now to our Taylor Street climb. They've got that climb at least 5 more times. Just one final climb on Fillmore. But we've got Eric Thomas and Elizabeth Munez. Eric and Elizabeth?
Hey, Martin, thank you very much. We are here with Suzette Ayad. She is with Physique Saddles. They make the saddles a lot of the riders in this race are using. They also sponsor about half a dozen teams. And the big Italian riders who have the status of NBA stars and NFL stars in Italy are here for this race. What is so attractive about this race for those European riders?
You know, I think for the European riders, even though it's the end of a long season for them, they know that there's a grand crowd support in San Francisco. They know it's one of the most beautiful and most challenging courses in the U.S. And I think for those reasons, they come out here and they rally and they come for the end of their season. And on top of that, also, a lot of the teams here, the European teams and the domestic teams, are sponsored by companies that do big business in the U.S., like Cannondale, Mavic, and Physique Saddles, for example, and come here to support those sponsors and also to support cycling in the U.S.
I got a question for you. We're watching these cyclists come up the hill, and it's absolutely exhausting. You can feel the pain and the agony. This is the end of the cycling season. They've been going since March. Physically, how do these guys do it? What are they up against?
Well, definitely, you know, they're putting in lots of miles on their bike. But, you know, a few years ago, there was a time when riders would ride on saddles that were super sleek, super lightweight, and comfort wasn't that important. But today, comfort is a lot more important. And For example, Physique makes saddles and works on high-end technology to make the riders a lot more comfortable in a 5-hour race.
I can't imagine because those seats are very tiny.
That's true. I mean, I have one here. This is our new Arione, and you can see it's still super sleek. It's lightweight, but it's also very long. There's about 12% more sitting area on this saddle, and so it really helps with comfort after that kind of riding.
All right, Suzette Ayotte with Physique Saddles, thank you so much for joining us. Martin, we'll send it back to you.
Okay, Eric, Elizabeth, thank you. There's our two leaders, and it's the young man, Jason Luxmore, who is out in front now. Of course, Aldog is taking the lead again, as he has done most of these races. As you pointed out, Jessica and John, it looks like a two-man breakaway, but at this point, it's one guy, and that's Aldog, and he's doing the work.
He's doing the work, but we've got to see what this young man's got in his legs, because every mile that he stays out in front here, it's a little more surprise that he's adding to us. So he was obviously a great junior rider. He looks kind of chunky. Maybe he's got a sprint. Maybe Aldog, who knows? If he can't dump the kid on the young man, I'll call him a kid, if he can't dump him on any of the next climbs, Aldog is a human being. As strong as he is, he's not a cyborg. So he might find himself in a tough situation where he's carried this young man close to the finish, and lo and behold, he's got a sprint. So we'll have to see what happens. But so far, nothing but surprises, great things out of this young Health Net rider. Meanwhile, Chase Group 218 behind, including Aldog's teammate Huntemark, Klinger. There's a shot of them. Lauder of the Navigators team in the blue and yellow there. They must be wondering what went wrong with their plans in the day so far. Desperately trying to shut down the others, as well as the Prime Alliance riders. David Klinger, look, in second position in the pink and black. Huntemark controlling for his teammate Aldog in front. He's not going to go to the front, and he's going to slow down that group because he's convinced that Aldog can win. The peloton, meanwhile, 3 minutes 27 seconds behind. Grajales in the orange of the Jittery Joe's Coffee team, a team that sells coffee at every race they go to make their salaries. And this is a young man who's certainly justifying the sponsorship by winning the King of the Mountains classification. Barring disaster, he should put it away, that classification.
All he has to do is finish the race at this point now, because he's got the points lead. They've got to go, of course, up the Fillmore Street Hill. The leaders are rounding down Greenwich Street, and they're going to look at that as we continue to look at that Chase Group. And it is interesting because now we're only talking about one more road up Fillmore Street Hill, and then, of course, we've got 5 more rides up the Taylor Street Hill. How's that young man, Jason Luxmore? Is he going to be able to hold on? Is Aldog going to be able to shake him? It's going to be some dynamics, I think, going on between the two of them. And will this Chase Group, will they be able to reel him in and pull him in? And then will Hintemark come into play? Will they then work as a team? It's going to be a lot of dynamics happening.
What will be interesting, the Chase Group doesn't seem, I mean, they're working well, but just not highly motivated. And you might see someone like Tim Johnson from Saturn trying to bridge, not so much chase, where the whole group comes up to the 2 riders off the front, but actually have a rider bridge up by himself to that breakaway.
They're going to have to be a very powerful move, and they're going to have to escape the watchful eye of Mr. Kai Huntemark to do that. So 2:23, the time board. Giving signs to our 2 leaders of how much, to our Chase Group.
The Chase Group,
the Chase Group on the field. So the field apparently, according to that, the field 223 behind this Chase Group, which is currently, excuse me, got it wrong. They're 223 behind our 2 leaders.
Yes.
So that's what's going on there. And
so the leaders are pulling away just a little bit. They're just increment of a second or 2.
This Chase Group right now does not look like it's doing well at all. They're not organized, they're not chasing hard at all. So they are in a bad position where they're going to have the field bearing on them. But at this point, I'm very concerned about this Chase Group. Grajales looks like he is toasted at this point. He's been going hard up every climb. So really you have Weary, who's been out front most of all the day. He's struggling, but it doesn't look good for this Chase Group.
So Hintemark basically is feeling that his guy Aldog can outdo the young man Luxmo. So he's probably not pushing that hard.
Here's the situation. The field has now caught the Chase Group. So Huntemark's looking around. Johnson's looking around. Has deigned the sun over for now. Now, if there is going to be action out of the field, it's going to start to happen. They've caught the Chase Group. There are only 2 men in between these riders and a potential victory. And now, if they're going to do it, it's the time to do it. Mark McCormick of the Saturn team in the red, white, and blue of the American National Champion going to the front. now is time for the big teams to make the move. They're 2 minutes behind our two leaders, Aldog and Loxmo, and now the race looks to be
there's our leaders
rejuvenated.
Right now. Yeah, there's our leaders now as they head up the Fillmore Street Hill. And, of course, we got Aldog, who is the man in front, 2:23 into that lead. And actually, it's turned out to be a main peloton because they have caught up with the chase group. It is Aldog and Loxmo as they try to battle and go up Fillmore Street Hill, and that group is trying to reel them in.
All right.
Now we know exactly why the chase group was really not looking organized, because they had the field bearing down on them. They knew it, and they were ready to go back to the field. And now all we have are 2 riders up front and then the field.
And, of course, we saw the standings for the King of the Mountain, and Grajales is the guy who's going to win that going away. And look at them. Look at them having to go through all. We're talking about the Fillmore Street Hill, and this point in the race, over almost 80 miles into the race. I mean, those young men have expended a tremendous amount of energy. It looks like they're almost stopped going up that hill.
Look at Aldog. He's looking bad. He's over-geared coming into this race. He's going sideways. Loxmo is actually dropping the big German. What a ride on the part of this young man from the HealthNet team. Aldog has run out of gear. Many of the Europeans sneered at the idea of having to put as little a gear as a 38.27 on their bikes. And I think now
a little macho-nism, macho bit, huh?
I think now they're feeling the pain of that decision. Look at Loxmo. Loxmo dropping Ralph Aldog. What a Cinderella ride of this young man.
I mean, he is powering up that hill. That's amazing.
He's not ready to try to leave Aldog at all. He knows he needs him at this point, so he's peaked the climb, but he needs Aldog to power through this win.
But you know, if you're a young rider like that, and you're a boxer, and you tap Sugar Ray Robinson a couple times,
and you saw him flinch. You saw him flinch right there.
That's what he did. Yeah, so you know, he's happy. He did the right thing.
He saw him flinch, and he got back into a shell and tried to protect himself. Here's the chase. They're making their way up Fillmore, and boy, that chase group is kind of falling apart. They're kind of scattered out.
There it is. But all joking aside, it's very bad for Aldog and Loxmo right now. They were looking so unassailable even a few minutes ago, and now the complete complexion of the race has changed. The field has come back together. The field is energized, and now the professional race, which will go faster and faster and faster as we approach the end, will explode into action. David Klinger of Prime Alliance roaring up that hill, trying to set up a breakaway, trying to keep himself in front for what's going to come up from behind as this field explodes up the climb, the last time up the Fillmore climb.
I'm telling you, when the field, if they can reel them in, as you pointed out, they'll be close for that final 4 laps around the 20 miles that we're going to have a bicycle race to the finish. I mean, a cattle stampede.
Now, behind Klinger, we saw Ekimov of the U.S. Postal Service team. That team come back to life. We saw the red of the Seiko jerseys, the teammates of Gilberto Simoni, the winner of the Giro d'Italia. He's brought his Giro team, his climbers, with him to San Francisco. Now David Klinger providing the launching pad, the point to chase for what's going to be coming out of the field. Klinger doing exactly the right thing. Get over that field, get over that hill as fast as you can, and hope that riders come up from behind and join them. John Leesman in the green, Saturn riders all over the front of this race, looking for Chris Horner. There's Ivan Dominguez. Ivan Dominguez in the Saturn team, the yellow. All right, now the race is reborn,
As you say, the professional teams, we're talking about, here's our leaders right now. HealthNet, of course, up there, and Aldog is doing his thing out front with the young man, Jason Luxmo, who is among the HealthNet team. Does he have any help coming up with that main group?
There's some good riders back from that team. You've got this fellow named Todd Harriet. You've got a Bulgarian, I don't know, Kozlov, a Bulgarian. Michael Sayers is a very good rider. So we'll have to see what happens. But anyway, for now, Aldog, Loxmo holding on.
Boy, exciting, dramatic finishing setting up as we see that the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software, we're going to have quite a finish, folks. You want to stay with us. Don't go anywhere as this race is setting up to be the finish of the year. Stay with Software. We have a bike race. It is setting up to be a dramatic finish. We've got 2 leaders who are out in front. They are just finishing the Taylor Street Hill, rolling down Union Street. That is Aldog and the young man from HealthNet, Jason Luxmo. And I'm telling you, but that group that's really reeling him in. They were, what, about a minute and a half behind a whole group of riders with some of the stronger teams. We've got Ekimoff with the U.S. Postal Team. He's in it. David Klinger of the Prime Alliance. I mean, the whole setup right now, it's any team's race, anybody's race.
As we take a look at the front of the chasing group, a minute 40 or so behind our two leaders, Aldog and Loxmo, we have David Klinger, winner of the Tour of Connecticut, roaring up the Taylor Street climb. He is got a gap. We'll have to see what he is, where he is in relation to the field, but we do know that he had been the first from the field over the Fillmore Street climb. Perhaps it looks as though he has opened up a gap on the field and is by himself. Remains to be seen who is behind him, how far they are, and how close he can come to the chasers in front. Meanwhile, behind there is the field with the red jerseys of the Seiko team that we've been looking for the entire day at the front.
They're going down now the Union Street Hill, and so they're, seconds behind David Klinger.
And like we talked about earlier, when the field wanted to make something happen, they made something happen. Now just a minute and a half. Really, it's anybody's race at this point.
Now Klinger, he's got to catch up with that first group to make it happen at all. At this point, it's just on him.
It's kind of a tough call right now what Klinger is doing. He's out in front. He's hoping that the two climbs, that Fillmore and Taylor, would have sprung loose 2 or 3 or 5 riders that would have gone from the field up to him. Now, it does not appear to have happened, so he's in what we call no man's land. He's in between a hard-chasing field and a very powerful group in front. Tactically, I don't know if it's the greatest move. We'll have to see how it plays out.
All right, we've got some other factors that are playing in this race. Let's talk about one factor, the wind. We're going to go down to our own Sandhya Patel, and she's going to talk about how the winds are going to play.
Well, Martin, the wind just started to pick up. It's gotten stronger here. It's definitely a stronger sea breeze than what we had expected. It is now out of the west-southwest at 18 miles an hour, even gustier in other spots. And with those winds, cyclists are really going to face extra resistance. It's going to take more pedal power to get you up some of those hills, more pedal power to come around some of the parts of the city of San Francisco. So it is not going to be as warm as what we had expected. We even expected low 70s. Temperatures are coming down. It's actually cooler. It's now about 62, 63 degrees here in San Francisco. So a refreshing cool breeze, but a tough wind that the cyclists are going to face. Mark?
Yeah, all right, thank you, Sandy. And John, and there's our leaders. You pointed out that it is a headwind many of the time for them. So a powerful, strong racers like Aldog, I think that would be a benefit for him. Maybe for the young man, I don't know. He doesn't look as big and as strong, but the way he's racing, he's pretty strong.
No, they're both big guys. Aldog is terrific in the wind, but the problem is there are only 2 of them now. And 2 men in a super powerful wind like this is not a lot of power, especially when you have a chasing field bearing down on you from behind. So they've done beautifully to stay out in front as long as they have. Loxmo, just like riding the greatest ride of a young rider's career, going blow for blow with a Tour de France star like Aldog. So this is a man whose stock has risen incredibly in the professional racing world with his performance we see here today.
All right, we see the 2 leaders, and when they finish and come around in front of the Ferry Building, they will have finished 79 miles. They will not have to go up the Fillmore Street Hill. They will now start the 4 laps to go. That is the 20-mile course, 5 miles distance, and only 1 time in each circuit do they have to go up the Taylor Street Hill. Our leader is Aldog at this particular point. Jason Loxmo is with him, but that chase group, the main peloton almost together, except for the one man, Dave Klinger, and they're trying to reel him in.
I think Dave Klinger making the move at the front, I think everybody in the field knows that the next couple moves at the front of the field are really going to be crucial moves not to miss. So someone like Klinger, he's trying to make a break. He's trying to make something happen. He's made a break. He's by himself. I don't know if that's the best situation for him, as John spoke about, being in no man's land, riding into this wind all by himself.
Is he hoping and just hoping that somebody will come up and join him and give him some help, and maybe the 2 of them?
There they come.
Here's some help right now.
There they come. And what we see is the red, white, and blue of the United States professional champion.
Ekimoff, possibly?
No, that will be 2 riders that are coming into our screen right now. They are. It's big news coming up. Number 65, that is Uros Murn of the Vini Calderola team. And behind him, Mark McCormick, the United States National Professional Champion of the Saturn team. They will hook up with Klinger. And then we're going to have a situation, a real situation. Oh, this is working out terrifically. Where the United States Professional Cycling Tour can be decided because Byrne is currently in third place overall in the Tour standings, while Klinger is in there as well, as is McCormick. So Byrne, McCormick, and Klinger have to finish in the top 3 in order to become the Pro Cycling Tour champions. Byrne has to finish 3rd or better, McCormick has to finish 2nd or better, and Klinger has to win. $20,000 extra on the line.
What drama. You're talking about the race within the race to win the race entirely. Here's the Klinger group right now as those men earn. Mern is coming up along with McCormick to help him out, and maybe they will all then try to reel in those first 2 races, but then they all, of course, are competing against each other. I mean, they want to be the Pro Cycling Tour champions, and they are putting it all on the line right now to win it.
And actually, Mern is in 2nd in the standings. He has 94 points. Then Mark McCormick is in 4th with 76 points. But the win is worth 80 points.
Ooh.
So this is coming down to the wire.
Yeah, we have to do the calculations on who wins and who gets 3rd and this and that. But both these guys are strong, powerful sprinters, capable of winning this race. So now, it's worked out for Klinger. His tactic worked out. It took a lot of energy out of him, though, to ride all that distance by himself, but it has worked out. He's been joined now by McCormick and Mern. So Klinger, McCormick, Mern chasing 2 men in front, Aldog and this young, unknown Loxmo. And we are setting up for a fantastic, fantastic finale.
As they roll along now, and it's really going through the North Beach area at this particular point, but you can see the team strategy coming into play. And of course, when we're looking at who's going to win the Pro Cycling Championship, Mern right there in 2nd place. And he is teaming up now with the guy that he's got to beat, Mark McCormick, in 4th place with the Saturn team. But they're teaming up now to pull down and to reel in those 2 men up top.
Okay, here's how it's going to work out. In order for Mern to win the Pro Cycling Tour, he has got to finish 2nd ahead of McCormick.
There's your leaders right there.
In order for Klinger to win, he has to win the overall race.
Aldog leading Jason Luxman.
All right, so that's the way. Klinger's got to win, and Mern can only finish 3rd. For McCormick to win, he has to get 2nd place. Mern can only finish 3rd, and Klinger gets 2nd. So that's the way it's going to play out. What a finish. A lot riding on this finish, if indeed they all catch up and they all end up contesting the victory.
You're not going to give me a test on that, are you, John?
Yeah.
I don't have to. But I know we'll shake it down. Those were your 2 leaders, Ralph Aldog and Jason Luxmo. And here we are again. Here they are, rolling along. And, of course, we've got that chase group, 3, just about a minute or so behind.
I tell you, I can't get over this Luxmo. He's going full per full with Aldog and looking around. Aldog looking behind, seeing where the chasers are, putting his head back and keeping going forward. A minute to go. What's interesting is with Klinger and Mern and McCormick is that Aldog's teammate, Huntermark, the man we talked about as the sheepdog for that chase group, helping Aldog, missed that move.
All right, here's your 2 leaders. They're a minute in front of a chase group of 3. We're talking about Aldog and Jason Luxmo. And I'm telling you, we've got a race that's chasing up that's going to go right down to the very end. All right, the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. Welcome back to what was going to be an exciting finish of the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. It is setting up to be some drama, and I mean some drama set up. We've got our 2 leaders as they're rolling down Columbus Avenue, headed for their first of 4 climbs up Taylor Street. The 2 leaders, Aldog of Telecom and Luxmo of HealthNet. But right behind them, only 31 seconds in front, behind the leaders. Can you believe it? That group of 3, they're reeling them in.
I hate to say this, but I think it's really over for this breakaway. It's just 30 seconds, it's all over for them. I hate to say it because Luxmo and Aldog have put in such a strong effort, and Luxmo almost seems like he's getting a little stronger. It's not that he's gotten weaker throughout the race, he's getting a little bit stronger at this point.
Well, they can look, you can see now as they start up the Taylor Street Hill, the pursuit, the chase group right there, they can look up and can see in front of them All-Dog and Loxmo. And so when you got them within range, within sight, I mean, that's got to be a big psychological lift.
Loxmo racing up the hill, properly geared. All-Dog looks under-geared, or over-geared rather, on this hill. Looks to be struggling quite a bit on the hill. And right in the same shot, there are our three chasers. And Loxmo dropping All-Dog on the hill. Amazing, amazing ride by the young man.
And look at the chase group. They seem to be properly geared. You're talking about Klinger, Mern, and McCormick, and they're going to really make a move. The one guy suffering in this is All-Dog.
And he's really only suffering on the climbs. That's where it's really seems like it's hurting him. Like John said earlier, he's over-geared, where you can see the other guys are kind of, they're on the top of their pedals, they're floating up the climb, and that's what's really hurt All-Dog throughout the afternoon.
So, Loxmo leading T-Mobile International, presented by BMC Software. A young man who nobody knew his name before this race started today. And now, with a little over 15 miles to go in the race, he's by himself in front, having dropped a Tour de France legend like Rolf All-Dog, having dropped the American, holding at bay, the American national champion Mark McCormick. The Health Net sponsors must be over the top with delight at the discovery. And here's the field coming up Taylor.
Amazing. And the main peloton is just too far behind at this particular.
Well, we don't know.
We
don't know. Everything's happening in this race. It depends on the fatigue level in front. They're less than 2 minutes behind, so the race is anything but over. But Loxmo putting his head down, having successfully dropped All-Dog. When we were saying all along, couldn't believe this young man was there.
Yeah.
And look, Klinger has bridged, has caught All-Dog, has caught Loxmo, and off they go.
Oh,
three men now.
Klinger of Prime Alliance, and so we got a three-man move. At this point out front, of course, the other two, Mern and McCormick, they are still going to try to reel him in and be a part of this group.
Yeah, let's see
but
where
Loxmo was able to respond. He was able to get right back onto Klinger's wheel, and that's a very good sign.
Oh, he was superb condition. So now they're all catching up. You've got All-Dog, you've got Klinger, you've got Loxmo, you've got Mern in the white and the blue, number 65 there, and you've got the American national champion Mark McCormick. So the group has shuffled, reshuffled, reformed. Now you have five very strong riders out in front. You know what? Every one of them is pretty big. It's interesting. They're big guys, despite all these hills. This is such a hard, deep course with all this wind and the tough power climb. Tends to be a more powerful rider who excels in this event, a la George Hincapie in the past.
Right, someone that has a lot of power can get up the climb, but there's time to recover in between the climbs. It's so much different than something like the Tour de France where you have 10, 12, 15 miles of climbing. It's a totally different rider that would excel on those climbs, that would excel on a tough, really short power climb.
Right now, latest time checks, field minute 24 behind our five-man group that includes David Klinger of Prime Alliance, Jason Loxmo of the Health Net team, Uros Mern of the Pinzola team, and our big hero, our day-long breakaway artist, Rolf All-Dog of the sponsoring telecom T-Mobile team.
And you got to love it with the young man, similar to last year when the Dion came on, an unknown to win the race. But here is Loxmo, a guy unexpected with Health Net, small team, making a mark for himself. It's certainly going to be a statement, and if he can get up on the podium, that in itself would be significant, and he is in position to make a run for the podium.
What's even more significant, and check my math if you would please, that if McCormick were to win this race and Mern had gotten second, McCormick could take the series.
Oh, absolutely.
The Pro Cycling Series?
He could take the whole series by winning this event today.
McCormick.
Wow.
Yes, McCormick, if he gets second in the race, he gets 136 points. He goes into the lead over Dean. However, again, it plays on what the other ones finish, if indeed they all get to the finish line together. So McCormick can get second, can beat Mern if Mern gets third, and still win the title.
Right, but even talking about who can win now. Now these riders are in contention for the win.
Absolutely. And again, if Klinger, who's been looking very powerful, very, very strong. He jumped away from the field on the last time up Fillmore, and there as our breakaway group passes by the start-finish line, and he's been all over the front of this bike race. So Klinger, don't forget, Klinger's fast. Mern is fast. Mern, in theory, is the fastest sprinter in this race. Now let's go back to another Pro Cycling Tour event, which were the United States Professional Championships, the Wachovia-sponsored U.S. Pro Championships. Uros Mern was second in the race in a photo finish by millimeters behind Stefano Zanini of the Seiko team, and McCormick was fourth. So Mern beat McCormick in that race. Now look, behind us, there's some gamemanship going on there. Riders looking around, you go, no, you go, no, you go, and gaps are open. Now this is bad for this breakaway group, because every time this sort of cat and mouse happens, the field gets a little bit closer, a little bit closer.
Yeah, 15 miles left to go in the race. And the main peloton, it's still possible that they could catch up and make this an even bigger race in development. But right now, it looks like our breakaway. Well, there's a group, a chase group of two
big
trying
man
to
there,
make a move.
A big man there in the yellow jersey, none other than Chris Horner, the dominant rider in North American racing this year, winner of countless races. He's back on form for this one. And Chris Horner coming up from behind to help his teammate Mark McCormick.
54 seconds behind in this chase group.
This would be a phenomenal move by Saturn. If they could get Horner up there with McCormick, they could really work this breakaway.
We'll have to get the number on the rider with Horner. Looks to be a jittery, jelly belly rider. There, Uros Mern, the Slovenian rider, the sprinter on the Italian team in his beautiful blue Gios bicycle.
And of course, Europe well represented in this field. And looking ahead now at this, as we see them now trying to help each other, playing a little gamesmanship, and here's the main peloton.
So our 5 leaders have 54 seconds over the chasing Chris Horner and a minute 23 over the peloton, as we see the peloton in our picture, all strung out. But the big race right here in front, 5 men, our leaders.
Amazing, 100 miles in this race, or 90 miles in this race. And we're what? 2 minutes separating the first from the last. It's incredible.
How things have changed from the beginning. It's just amazing. And McCormick needs to think, okay, if Mern is definitely a better sprinter than me, what am I going to do to make it happen for myself? And that might just be attacking on the climbs.
On the Taylor Street Hill, as they're nearing them now.
It might help him as well. This man, Chris Horner, coming up from behind, less than a minute away from being able to help his teammate in company of number, is that 52? 32, thank you. Number 32, Lorenzo Cardellini, excuse me.
Another Italian. Would he help the other Italian, Mern, in this thing, despite them being on a different team?
No, not at all.
Okay.
A different team, and that's, sorry, we've been misidentified as number 92. Jelly Belly team. That's a Ben Brooks from Australia. We have this information, and Ben Brooks in company with Chris Horner trying to close that gap on the lead group of 5 riders. So what a fascinating tactical race this has been. Changes right from the beginning.
Chris Horner, of course, wanting to get up to help his teammate Mark McCormick not only to win this race, but to win the overall Pro Cycling Championship Tour, and as far as all the 4 races. And it can happen. They can make this happen in the next 4 or 5 minutes.
And what a better compliment than being told or being touted as a possible winner than having Lance Armstrong talk about you as a possible winner. And he was right. Chris Horner is getting into the position to possibly, maybe, get up to this breakaway and be a real player.
We'll have to see. It's still a good bit of distance to make up. He's got to make up almost a minute on 5 riders, and he's only with 1 other. Now, the question is, what will McCormick do? McCormick will get information back from his team car that Chris Horner's chasing. Now, will McCormick try and keep working and keep Horner away? Or will he think it's worth it to slow down slightly so Horner can make the junction? Right now, I don't think he'll do that, because Horner is still too close to the chasing field. Too close to the field. So, McCormick, what's going on here? He's soft pedaling a bit in the front there.
I have to agree. This is such a tough position that he's in right now.
He's not working.
He's not working hard, is he?
He wants Horner up there, obviously. He'll take the chance. He wants Horner up in front with him to help him.
Look, now the Saturn cart, no, that's the officials. Okay, take that back, sponsoring Saturn team. But McCormick not working.
He's pulling off to the side, letting someone else do the work.
The one who is really charging forward is Uros Mern. Mern really taking the bit between his teeth and going forward. as is Loxmo.
Your man from Health Net, Loxmo. This young guy, who is this guy? Jason Loxmo is really making a move for himself, a name for himself here in this race.
And Mern has confidence in his sprint against McCormick, so he wants to keep it exactly the way it is right now, coming into the final sprint.
Now look, some of the cat and mouse going on here between the riders has caused Alldog and Klinger to be dropped. They've been dropped, they've been talking, you go, no, you go, and now they've caught back up. These little gaps, these little blips of focus, these little lapses of concentration that cause you to have to close 50 meters, 100 meters on a breakaway group, not only fatigue you greatly, especially if you've been like Alldog and you've been out in front the entire day, but cause you to lose time from the chasers behind. Now, very interesting. Very interesting. Watch what McCormick does. What is McCormick's attitude going to be? Does he go to the front? Does he work? Or does he slow down this group in the hopes that his teammate chase? Bad news. No. Bad news for the Saturn team.
Chris Horner.
Bad flat tire. How quickly can the Mavic service course change this wheel? Seconds are ticking off. Good change. Good wheel change. So now Saturn team plans thrown into disarray because Horner, who was only about 30 seconds behind, has now lost another 20 back to a minute. When next shot we get of our leaders, what will be now the attitude of Mark McCormick now that he knows that Horner has lost this time? Bad luck for them.
The timing could not have been any worse for getting a flat tire early on the race. It would have been no problem. Horner could have gotten back with the field, but this is bad timing. And like you said, John, I think this might change the way Mark McCormick's going to approach this breakaway.
Boy. Bad luck for the Saturn team, but our group up front, we've got Alldog, we've got Luxmo, we've got Klinger, we've got Mern, and we've got McCormick. McCormick knows now by this time that he is alone. He's going to have to make some decisions, and he's not going to get the help. Here's the replays. We take a look at what happened as Chris Horner was really making an effort to get up front, and oh boy, flat tire. And he signals to say, hey, I need help. Mechanics, I'm down.
The only great thing, though, is that they had support right there. Sometimes you have to wait for the support to drive up, and he had him right there. So that does help the situation, but it helps a bad situation.
You know, he only lost about 10 seconds. That's a great wheel change by Mavic. Of course, they're the best in the business. You wouldn't expect anything else. So Horner lost another 10, maybe 15 seconds, and a man on his form, a man with his power, could possibly catch back up. Now, you know what was interesting as well? Is Brooks waited for him. Yeah. Brooks said, okay, I need you. We're temporary teammates.
We're going to
put on the brakes. Waited for him. So that is something that's really played into Horner's.
That was
Horner's
a plus
favor.
for Horner.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And look, he's got them in sight. It's not over for Horner. It's not over for the Saturn team. Horner had the follow cars behind this group in sight as he went over the hill. It's not over. He can do it. He can make this junction. He can catch this group in front.
All right, they're looking at now going up Taylor Street Hill for the second time in this final 4 laps. And this, of course, is the second lap as they look at the leaders going up the Taylor Street Hill, the 5 leaders trying to work together to help each other, but yet someone is trying to get dropped, hopefully. They're saying not one of their teammates. Of course, Mark McCormick is looking and hoping that his teammate, Chris Horner, can make up that ground and come up and help him.
It'll be interesting if we see any signs of weakness on this climb, because if there are weaknesses, you're going to see it here with these last 2 times of the Taylor Street climb.
No place to run, no place to hide. Now, who's the man in front? It is David Klinger. David Klinger has been on fire this entire race. Now he's forcing the pace. Loxmo right behind him, and then back. There's Horner. Horner made the junction. What a rider! What a ride!
He's really paid the price to help his teammate.
He is with. So Horner has come back. Alldog looks to be being dropped. We'll have to get a look at where the rest of the breakaway or the leaders are at this point, excuse me, in comparison to Horner. But what a ride. Now you see why this man has been the #1 rider in North America for the past 2 years. Fantastic, fantastic effort on his part. He's made it over the top of the climb. He's on the downhill, and he is in with the leaders. Horner has caught back up. Saturn team has reassembled. They're 2 men in front. They have numerical advantage in the bike race so far.
Now, who was this set up with between the 2 of them? Mark McCormick with a chance to win the Pro Cycling Tour if he won, or Chris Horner. Are they going to race it out to the end?
Sometimes you just have to go with the flow, and Mark and Chris need to talk. Who's feeling good right now? Of course, we'd love to see Mark get up there and set the win up for Mark, because then he could take the Pro Tour standings. But on the other hand, if Horner is just having an unbelievable day, then they might have to turn it around for Horner.
Well, right now what's going on is the Saturn team has made a decision to send McCormick out on a breakaway. And as far as I can tell, McCormick has broken away by himself and is leading this bicycle race. McCormick with his big 55-tooth chain wheel. One rider in between McCormick and the Chase group. This race is on fire.
My goodness. Now, so Chris Horner, he's just still trying to catch up and be a part of it. But my goodness, Mark McCormick going out, going to try to take this race and, of course, in the same time, capture the championship with the Pro Cycling Tour.
Look at the downhill technique, sitting on his top tube, making himself into an aerodynamic ball to get those extra 2 or 3 miles an hour out of his downhill motion. Now catching him, Uros Murn. My goodness, 2nd and 4th in the United States Professional Championship on the Italian team, but the Slovakian rider.
My good, and they're rolling down the Embarcadero. This is their 2nd tour now around in this final 4 laps that will go past the ferry building. They're looking to go past for the 2nd time.
Not going to let this slip away from him. He's not going to let this Pro Tour slip away from him.
Absolutely not. He's fast, he's strong, he's experienced, and guess what? He's going to be Tyler Hamilton's teammate next year.
Oh,
on the Phonak team out of Switzerland. So Murn feeling powerful. He feels he's part of the American racing scene in a way because he'll be a teammate of Tyler Hamilton's. But down the left side of the road, right side of our screen, Chris Horner on the attack, the #1 rider in North America from the Saturn team, exploding into action after having come back from a flat tire. And now, wow, look at him take that turn. What a racer he is. Years of European experience. Look at him thread his way through the streets of San Francisco. A perfect moment for an attack. He has dropped the motorcycle through the turns. They're just catching up to him now. Perfectly timed attack. Now, this is a man that can go by himself to the finish, panic behind, because they know how strong he is.
He is showing so much heart and so much determination as he swings down the Embarcadero now to go past the ferry building for his 2nd circuit completion and starting the 3rd circuit. And that would be 10 miles left in the race when he crosses the ferry building. Chris Horner putting on quite a show. Determination, of stamina, and of strength. And his teammate, Mark McCormick, battling in front with the Italian, Uros Murn. It is going to be something at the very finish of this race because, as you pointed out, Chris Horner is definitely not out of it. He has put himself right smack dab in the middle of this race as a possible winner.
Now we get a relational shot. There's Horner on his own, being chased behind by Murn, who's slightly in front of the rest of, by Klinger rather. And so on the road, Horner followed by Klinger. A few seconds behind, there's Murn and the rest of the Chase group lurking behind Murn in the blue, the red, white, and blue of the American National Champions, Mark McCormick, and the American-based Saturn team playing their team battle to perfection. Klinger looking fatigued, just being caught by Murn. McCormick controlling the situation. Saturn team, numerical advantage, tactical advantage in the race right now. 10 seconds has Chris Horner, but he's got 10 seconds plus a teammate behind.
And I have to tell you, Horner looked great out there. He looked strong. Klinger looked like he was struggling a little bit. Horner is looking great at this point.
Yesterday, he raced a race in San Rafael. He was in a breakaway the entire day. Reports came back to us saying that he was in the breakaway and not even breathing with his mouth open. He was so powerful. He's really strong, this guy. He's really, really strong. He's a great, and he spent a few years in Europe learning the fine arts of being a European professional bicycle racer.
And didn't break a sweat.
Yeah, well, he broke a sweat in Europe.
Where is our young man, Loxmo? Is he still in the Health Net? Is he still in the group? Is in the 2nd
My
group?
goodness, this race is heating up because Horner is there. A minute behind is the chasing field, being chased by the Navigators team, followed by the Saturn team, but all over the front are the yellow jerseys of the Saturn team. So, as McCormick looks around, he's got to know that behind his teammates are doing their best to protect the lead of Chris Horner now in front. Great race.
Oh boy. And the Italian, of course, as you pointed out, Jessica Murn, he's going to try to make it happen. He's not going to let Chris Horner pull away from this race. He's after him and doing what he can to catch up.
It's going to be really, if you get Horner, McCormick, and Murn together, it's going to be really interesting the way Saturn approaches this. They are just going to try to work Murn over as much as possible.
So there's Klinger on the bottom of our screen, pulling off to the left. Murn taking the lead, followed by McCormick. McCormick will never leave the front of this race, but he will do nothing to help make that Chase group go faster. Behind Aldaz, looking to be in a bit of difficulty in the pink jersey, opening up a bit of a gap. How can he not be tired after all the efforts he's made all day? Mern sitting behind Aldaz. What a race, and yes, there's McCormick.
Yeah.
Staying in front and controlling.
Just controlling that second Chase group. And here's our leader. It's Chris Horner with just a show of stamina and strength that's been unbelievable. We're going to continue. We're going to come back for the exciting finish of the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. Stay with us. We're live looking at the San Francisco city. This is the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software, and we're setting up for an exciting finish of this 108-mile race. This is the leader, Chris Horner of the Saturn team, came on strong in the final, the last 5 minutes to take the lead. Let's take a Canon race summary and take a look at what's happening if you've just joined us. Here's the total prize money, $40,000, $10,000 for first place. And here's the new leader, Chris Horner, Team Saturn. Dropped out the defending champion, Charles Dion, and of course Lance Armstrong dropped out at about the 50-mile mark. With the U.S. Postal Team, of course, Lance Armstrong, the 5-time defending Tour de France champion.
Now we look at our leader on the road, Chris Horner, number 3 of the Saturn team, the leading rider in North America this year, showing us just why he is that title. He's got 47 seconds on the Chase group of 5 riders, and this 47 seconds is after having stopped for a flat tire, having to change a tire, quick change, mind you, but getting himself back to the field, went to the Chase group, went right through them.
We thought he was
the lead group, right through them, and bang, opened up almost a minute.
We thought he was going to possibly just try to help out his teammate, Mark McCormick, who was in the group. But here's a guy showing such stamina, such strength and experience as he rolls down Bay Street, headed to go along and make that final swing up Powell.
Who would have ever thought when we watched him getting the tire changed that he'd be in this position now? It is just an unbelievable ride.
Now his teammate, Mark McCormick, has dropped the chasers. Now Saturn 1-2 on the road. And McCormick not only chasing second overall in this race, but Mark McCormick.
He's chasing the Pro Cycling Championship.
Tour Cycling, he's looking for the Pro Cycling Tour. And McCormick has to finish second or better in order to win this race.
I mean, it couldn't have set up any better for Saturn, Team Saturn.
Actually, just absolutely perfect tactics. I mean, they made this race happen for themselves.
They're going to get their guy, McCormick, in second place and maybe even first place. He will win the overall championship for the Pro Cycling Tour if they can hold on, if they can maintain it. But the way they've set it up, they're in position to make it happen. And, of course, Chris Horner could go on and possibly even win the race.
Well, Chris Horner looks fantastic. He's flying straight up that hill, no weaving from side to side. He's got the proper gear as he begins to weave from side to side.
A little bit, yeah. This is the Taylor Street Hill.
Maybe he's getting a bit closer to the crowd, but winning the winner of the Tour of Georgia, the winner of the Solano Cycling Classic, the winner of innumerable races this year. Horner, fantastic rider, an athlete at the peak of his powers. One more time over the Taylor Street climb, and this race will be his. He's got to hold on, though, because the field is chasing.
He looks very, very fit, very, very fit at this point, and there's his teammate coming right behind him, talking about Mark McCormick, who, if he finishes second place, he would win the overall championship in the Pro Cycling Tour.
Well, behind him, the man that wants to prevent that is Urs Mern.
The Italian, with the Italian team.
The Slovenian with the Italian team, who's coming from the Chase group, bridging the gap up to McCormick, desperately trying to get up to him because he knows Mern that he cannot let McCormick finish in front of him if Mern wants to take home that championship, because if McCormick finishes ahead of Mern in this race today, if McCormick finishes second and Mern finishes third, McCormick will win the race.
My goodness.
McCormick will win the Pro Cycling Tour.
Overall championship.
A lot going on here. What a race. The organizers, Mern looks to have cracked.
Is shot.
He cracked.
Mern is giving up the ghost because he's just posted.
He cracked.
I was just going to say, he's not going to let it slip away. He was fighting, but I think it's over for him. He gave it everything he had, and at this point, McCormick is just pulling away.
Look at McCormick go. Look at the giant gear. His brother, Frankie McCormick, very similar rider, big, powerful gears. Mark was often in the shadow of Frankie when they raced together. It was funny. It was funny, the dynamic between brothers. And as soon as Frankie retired, Mark emerged onto the scene, exploded onto the scene, became the national champion, and is showing the great international rider that he is. But today,
here's our leader. That's
our
Chris
leader.
Horner now.
Chris
He's
Horner.
going down Columbus Avenue, headed toward Broadway, down Broadway, then of course the Embarcadero. And when he hits the Embarcadero and hits the ferry building, he will make one more lap, one more time up the Taylor Street Hill. So he's got to be feeling comfortably well at this particular point, knowing that his teammate, Mark McCormick, is behind him. That's something to feel.
John, I just want to go back to something you said. Frank McCormick was really the leader of Team Saturn, Mark McCormick's brother, his older brother. They grew up racing since they've been little kids on the East Coast. Frank was the team leader, and it's just great to see that Frank has moved on and Mark has just moved right into his position as team leader this year.
Family dynasty in the sport of cycling. The McCormick brothers, they're wily, tough guys. They are clever. They know every trick in the book, and they use big gears. Powerful, powerful guys. But back to our leader, Chris Horner. Look at him. Look at the bike handling abilities. Look how he threads his way through the streets of San Francisco.
Yeah. He's going down Stewart Street now. Then he'll hit Howard, make a left, and then he'll hit the Embarcadero, coming down to past the ferry building. For that one time, the next time he hits the ferry building, that would be the finish.
It would be so amazing, and it's looking more and more like this for Saturn to be 1-2 in this race. I mean, what a way to end the season.
A Saturn day. You've got to believe it. And we talked earlier to the Saturn team director. At that point, even early in the race with the U.S. Postal team, he was feeling very comfortable that they were in good position and that the pack was going to come back to them.
So now here on the road, we take a look at our second place rider, Mark McCormick of the Saturn team, about 30 seconds behind his teammate, Chris Horner. McCormick chasing a victory of his own, chasing the overall professional cycling tour standings ahead of his rival, Urs Mern, for that title. But McCormick cracking Mern on the penultimate time up the Taylor Street climb, and now he has got the Saturn rider.
We've got the bell left for Chris Horner. He's past the ferry building.
One lap
for the final time.
1 lap to go for Chris Horner. 1 lap between 5 miles between Chris Horner, and what a great victory. Perhaps the greatest victory in his career.
And this
he wins the T-Mobile International.
What a day for Team Saturn with the U.S. Postal Service team, the preeminent team, of course, in all the world, but Team Saturn making a big statement here at the San Francisco Grand Prix. They may clinch the overall championship with their rider, Mark McCormick, who is in second place right now. There's the leader, Chris Horner. He's going out to win the race. McCormick could finish second and clinch the overall championship for the full cycling circuit.
And we just got a time check. The Horner was actually moving faster this lap than the lap before. So he's only getting stronger as the race goes on.
I mean, it's been amazing. He just stayed, bided his time, as you were talking about, John, stayed with the main peloton most of the way, came out with that breakaway group, lost the wheel. I mean, we're talking about lost the wheel in the final 20 miles. Got up again, caught up with the chase group, and then caught up with the main group and put himself in the lead.
Very interesting to see that Lance Armstrong's prophecy of the domestic riders being all over the victory in this race coming true. But behind, the field is all strung out in a single line. So McCormick here in our shot has got to put his head down and pedal, because this second place is by no means guaranteed.
And it's vital to him. I mean, if he doesn't finish second, he's not going to win the overall riding championship.
It'll go. The Pro Cycling Tour will go to Julian Dean.
I mean, really, it would be so hard for McCormick to get caught in the final closing miles and then be ready to go out for a field sprint. By that time, he'll be roasted. So it will be over.
He's struggling a little bit right now, as you pointed out, John. You can look tongue out. I mean, he's not riding easily at this point.
Well, at the end, he's done 100 miles. He's got 3 miles to go in this bicycle race. One more time up Taylor Street. Mark McCormick has got to put in one of the efforts of his life if he wants to crown his National Professional Championship title with that of the Pro Cycling Tour champion. It's there in front of him. He's got to find somewhere that strength to hold off that chasing field that are only about 30 seconds behind him. McCormick has to be able, as he looks behind him.
He's looking back. That's always a sign.
Don't look behind you, Mark. Go forward.
That's always a sign when they look back. You know, it happens that you know that he's facing exhaustion. Here's a guy who's in 3rd place in the overall point standings. So he's got to finish in 2nd. He's got it so close to jump from 3rd to 1st. This right here within his grasp. That's something.
It's vital that he stays out front, and he's, like you said, giving everything he has, but he feels that field just creeping up behind him.
This man, on the other hand, looks to have, barring disaster,
Chris Horner.
Chris Horner looks to have this race locked up. He's not slowing down. He's not looking behind.
He's picking up speed.
He is picking up speed. He is showing all of those years of European racing, all of those years of hard training, and just why he's been the dominant rider in North America this year. He's got a magnificent fluid style on the bicycle. He races like a downhill ski racer off the hills on his bicycle. He's a fantastic tactician and a true worthy champion of this race.
And the word in the field is that Seiko is leading the chase. They are driving the train right now after McCormick.
Okay. Well, Mark McCormick, that's one we're going to keep an eye on. Of course, here's the leader. This is Chris Horner, rolling, going down, I think, Columbus at this time as he makes his final, heading toward his final shot up the Taylor Street Hill. But boy, he is really riding well, as they would say, riding high, looking good and comfortable.
Looking fantastic. He is looking terrific. He's got 40 seconds lead on McCormick. McCormick desperately trying to hold off the field. Right here we look at Mark McCormick looking behind. He knows it's so close. He's so close to an historic double, winning the United States Professional Championship, winning the Pro Cycling Tour standings. But it's one man, McCormick, against the chasing field. But unlike his teammate, Chris Horner, who has timed his race to perfection, Horner, who took almost a month off the bike in the middle of the season, a rest period, got himself going again just for this race, intensive training. So he's fresh, he's trained, and that's the result that you see here today. But I tell you, Horner is just riding the most unbelievable race, and a lot of these Europeans are coming over here. Must be wondering just who is this guy and how does he go so hard?
How could he be so fresh? I mean, they're looking, thinking that they know the hills. No, they don't know the San Francisco hills. Chris Horner did, and he's showing it.
He's a California boy. Chris Horner's a California boy.
Yeah.
So he's winning at home. This has got to be a magnificent thing for him.
And Horner did take the time. He went to Europe. He tried the racing in Europe full time. It didn't work for him. It just didn't work for him, the lifestyle. So he came back to the U.S. after a few years in Europe, and look, he's just been dominating the domestic scene.
Chris Horner out front, rolling now, down by Fisherman's Wharf. He's looking good, looking comfortable. 40-plus seconds in front of his teammate, Mark McCormick, who's struggling somewhat, trying to stay ahead of the pack. That's important for him to finish at least 2nd place. If he does finish in 2nd place, he would clinch the overall points championship for the Pro Cycling Tour.
Now, as we look at Mark McCormick, 40 seconds behind his teammate, Chris Horner. McCormick looks to be struggling using that giant 55-tooth chain wheel. Will he be able to hold off the chasing field, who are led by this Italian Seiko team? The team, quiet up until this point, seemed to have mistimed their race, realizing how powerful that Chris Horner is. But McCormick desperately holding on, desperately playing the team card, showing that national championship jersey in all its glory in the streets of San Francisco.
There's Chris Horner now.
40 seconds up the road, Chris Horner in front.
Going down Bay Street. It's amazing. You can see when watching Mark McCormick, he keeps looking back, and he's definitely concerned about the peloton behind him.
There's just a difference in the body language.
Yeah.
Look at Horner, how smooth he looks. He's not.
Oh, there's Mark McCormick.
McCormick
not
looks
moving
bad.
his body around. Now look at McCormick. He's really struggling. You can see his shoulders kind of rolling over the handlebars. He is struggling at this point.
Oh, McCormick looks bad. He's grinding. The gears are heavy. His shoulders are rolling. Where is the field?
And
we'll
we're
have to
looking to
see if
see,
he's going to
yeah.
be able to hold off this field as we look. They're still not in sight. He's still got a chance to hold off this field, but he's got to get it together. He's got to get that big gear of his rolling. Now, back to Horner. Look how the upper
Smooth,
body doesn't move.
comfortable,
Look how the legs
confident.
just
like a sewing machine.
flow underneath him,
He's
and
a
how
machine.
relaxed his upper body is.
Yeah, he's a machine. You can tell it. Comfortable, confident, even standing up now as he rolls along as they head down the way, going up Taylor Street at this point. This is his final climb up Taylor Street. 51-second lead. Yeah, he's expanding his lead, pushing, surging to the finish line. This guy is confident. He knows he's got a championship. Nobody's strong enough to take him.
Now, here comes McCormick up the hill. Nice light gear, turning his legs over easily.
This is
Horner,
Chris
excuse me,
Yeah.
Horner turning the gears over lightly, nicely, showing the beautiful form that makes him a great time trials, great road rider, great solitary effort specialist. And Horner charging for the last time up the Taylor Street climb towards a certain, just about certain victory, barring disaster. The crowd urging him on, the screaming, the yelling.
Look at that guy run alongside of him.
Now that's
Yelling
a
in
piece
his
of
ear.
Europe. That's what
That's
it's like
classic.
in Europe when you're racing.
That is classic as he makes that left turn down Union Street for the final time.
Now as we look back down the hill, where is Mark McCormick? Where is Mark McCormick? Well, there is Horner. Horner racing down the hill.
There's
No more hills for our leader, Chris Horner, but Mark McCormick. Can he make it over this hill? Come on, Mark. He's got to do it. He deserves to do it. He's been in front. And where is the wheels of the riders chasing? Not yet. There they are. Oh, he's in trouble. Somebody's coming up from behind him. McCormick, can he hold on? There's a group of 1, 2, 3 riders. A red jersey from the Seiko team. And the field. How close. What a race this is.
They are attacking. They are after McCormick because they can see that he's struggling. And I mean, boy, is that the jittery Joe's Coffee coming behind him?
Whoever that is in the red should get out of the road. Now, McCormick is going to make it over the team. What can happen that's good for McCormick is if these 1, 2, 3 riders catch him. Somehow they catch him. They can take him maybe to the finish, help him stay away from the chasing field. Hunter Mark, a Seiko rider. Telecom, Seiko, Lauder from Navigators. We don't have a number on the Seiko rider. If they pick up McCormick, maybe they can take him to the finish, and maybe McCormick can still get that second place with his sprint.
There's your leader now, Chris Horner. He is breezing. He's about a minute, but here is McCormick. This is where the race is really developing right now. The race for second place, Mark McCormick, trying to clinch the overall riding championship on the Tour the Pro Cycling Circuit. A second place finish would counter that for him. He's got to finish second to that man, Chris Horner.
And here comes Chris Horner racing down the Embarcadero, racing towards a victory in this T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. Chris Horner showing the form, power, tactical astuteness, style on a bicycle that has made him the dominant rider in North America.
He almost has a smile on his face because he knows and he hears the crowds as he's going down Embarcadero. He looks great. I almost see this little smirk of a smile there.
Well, he should be smiling today. He's got great balance. He looks good in the wheel, and he is rolling. He's got this race well in hand as he goes down the Embarcadero, going to make that final circuit around Michigan and Stewart and Howard, and then back down the Embarcadero right in front of the Ferry Building to the start and finish line.
The Saturn Cycling Team started out 2003 as the dominant team in North America, and they're finishing up the season proving that they can not only win races in the early season, they can win them in the middle of the season, and they can win them at the end of the season. They have been the best team in North America this year, and this victory, this certain victory, barring disaster by Chris Horner, just proves that point. And Horner, as their leader, is also proving just why he is considered the greatest rider in North America, a man who has dominated this season from start to
greatest
finish.
rider in North America, which does not include, of course,
North
Lance
American
Armstrong.
racing season, the North American racing circuit.
And of course, if his teammate, Mark McCormick, can hold on, he'll clinch second place and would clinch the riding championship for the Pro Cycling Tour. There he is, Chris Horner, breezing down the Embarcadero, surging toward the finish line to clinch this, the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. He's going to breeze to the championship and throw up his arms, of course, in the classic gesture.
So Chris Horner in the final kilometer of the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. A highly merited solo victory, tactical perfection, style on the bicycle, teamwork, patience, every aspect that makes a great bicycle racer great. This man is embodied in this rider. The dominant rider of the 2003 North American season, Chris Horner, surging towards a decisive victory in this race. He is winning by himself in the most magnificent manner possible. Chris Horner leaving no doubt whatsoever as to why he is the best rider in North America. He sits up, he looks over his shoulder, he talks to his team car. Yeah. He's incredibly happy. His hands go in the air.
He's the winner.
He has won. He has won the race. He has won the race.
It's over. You've done it, Chris. California fella, hey, we gotta love it. And he's finished. Now, he didn't know, but we've got to look back.
Mark McCormick has held on for second place. Mark McCormick has held on for second place. The American National Professional Champion, against all odds, holds on, second in the race, wins the Pro Cycle.
Welcome back. Oh boy, T-Mobile International. My goodness, presented by BMC Software. Here's the unofficial results. Boy, what a day for Team Saturn. Number 1, Chris Horner, the winner of the race. Number 2, Mark McCormick from Team Saturn. Of course, he wins. Right, you got to say goodbye. What a day. Jessica Greco, John Eustace, what a race, what a finish. It's been something. We'll look to do it again next year. So for our team here at ABC 7 and for Jessica Greco and John Eustace, I'm Martin Wyatt. We'll see you next year. We're going to do this all again. Goodbye, everybody.